From 2006 to 2016, I served our great nation. I enlisted because I wanted to do something great with my life. I saw an opportunity to do something bigger, to do something better. And that's a big part of the reason why many people enlist in the military. We join a brotherhood, a camaraderie, if you will, that has been matched nowhere else that I've seen in my 39 years on this earth. The men and the women that signed up and fought for this, we fought so that the rest of the majority of us don't have to understand that. Some of us, we pay with our lives all at once. Others of us, we pay with our lives over a lifetime. Either way, we are all in the same position. This is Matthew Simone with Bravo Foxtrot, United Veterans. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to bring up some important topics. With us, we have Daniel Jackman, Army Ranger. Dan, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Dan Jackman, as Matthew Simone said, I'm the father of two, Mason and Isabella. I served on the demilitarized zone in South Korea. I was also stationed at the 75th Ranger Regiment headquarters at Fort Benning, Georgia.
So one of the important topics that we want to bring to everybody's attention, two important topics rather, is two articles that we have recently come across. One that has been brought to my attention just yesterday, which is from the Patch, stating that thousands of undocumented migrants are going to be housed in Nassau County. Okay? Now, I want to digress a bit and say that I am a first-generation born Simone. Okay, I'm first generation. What does that mean? It means that my father, also my grandparents, immigrated to this country, instilled values to me. Those values were hard work and respect, and embracing this country, embracing it, not exploiting it, but embracing it. There's an important difference that we need to pay attention to there. Now, the second article that I want to bring to everybody's attention was made by the New York Post. Okay, Orange County, also in New York City. There were veterans this past week, homeless veterans that were pushed out of hotel rooms in order to make room to house undocumented migrants. Now, I'm a big proponent of give us you're tired, you're hungry, you're poor. That's what built this country, what built this nation. However, something doesn't quite sit right with me as the director of Bravo Foxtrot United Veterans. When I come in contact with homeless veterans every day, we should not be prioritizing anything or anyone above ensuring the safety and the decent livelihood. You know, we're not asking for much here, everybody. The decent livelihood of veterans after serving in the military, after signing a contract up to and including the price of their lives to secure the freedom and sovereignty in each and every one of us.
Well, I'll tell you as a proud member of Bravo Foxtrot that the new information is extraordinarily upsetting. That my grandparents or great-grandparents were themselves immigrants, and there's a proud history of immigration which helps make America America. But to maintain America as an idea of there's certain principles that this country is founded upon. And those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that is a part of our historic Declaration of Independence. That these, in this country, in this country, life, liberty, and independence were going to be paramount. And that we find these truths to be self-evident, that they are true within themselves, because there's no way you could make them untrue, no matter how you look at them. And that's a very easy case to make, and I would love for somebody to ask me that question.
Can you talk about the Tree of Liberty, Dan?
The tree of liberty, the best way I could explain it, as I actually once articulated this in a drawing in Professor Singer's class at a graduate course in curriculum and education at Hofstra University. We were all forced to draw a tree of liberty, and it had to be articulated, with the pen or paint. And it was the manifestations of things which we all agreed to be true, or things that we agreed upon, because if we can't agree upon certain things, then there's no way to continue conversation. Such things as basic human nature. And you have basic human nature, and you have an opportunity for basic human nature to thrive. And America's expansion not just manifest destiny, because people say, well, they're Indians and other people who were injured by that, but the manifestation of the ideas that were reminiscent in the Enlightenment, that George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, the notes of the state of Virginia, helped explore to quite expansive distances, helped bring apart a better life, and why the United States has always been seen as a shining city upon the hill for other people from around the world to want to get to. Because it wasn't that they wanted to get where the light is, where the bright light is. And inherently, we could all see we're all craving that same thing. And hence there was this expression, this beautiful expression. You know what I mean? In our founding fathers' expression of where we thought our country could go. So, with regards to its ramifications in the roots, you do have to be able to summit some of the difficulties in human psychology, where some of the roots are very wonderfully planted, and that is...
What was the quote, Dan? I'm sorry to interject. The quote, the blood of the Tree of Liberty.
Oh, that's a quote by Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson. That's what I was going
for. The Tree of Liberty, right, will have to be satiated and watered by the blood of patriots.
Can you say that one more time, Dan? I don't know.
The Tree of Liberty will have to be nurtured and watered by the blood of patriots.
What does that mean?
Now, Matt, that's a very, very good question. And I thank you for bringing this question to a more germane opportunity to explore what Rob Foxtrot's about. And that is that there are people who are sacrificing their lives. Whether they die or whether they continue to live afterwards, have to live in suffering. Complete abject suffering, so you can maintain a good life. That's hard for some people to understand because you're not that person. You don't have that ability to do that for others. That's most of you. But there are a variety of individuals, millions of them, who concern themselves about your survival. You should probably value that. And imagine the values that they have, that they're willing to die and continue suffering. Or to carry a flag. For instance, this man's best friend died in his arms. This is the flag that this person represents. It wasn't a family member who got it. He got it. He's living with this. That's not an easy thing to live with. And you can immediately see how upsetting that is. But it shouldn't be shocking. My concern is that there's a need for Bravo Foxtrot to begin with. There shouldn't be a need for this, but yet there's a need for this. And part of it is Americans have become forcefully detached from their history.
And I have another question I want to ask you, Dan. What is your sentiment? How do you feel about the fact that there's so much media attention right now on the migrants that are flooding into this country, as migrants always have throughout history? However, how do you feel about the fact that they are receiving so much government funding, so much taxpayer dollar while simultaneously we have veterans, as we know firsthand, that are living in squalor on the streets, in wooded lots throughout our community, dying at the train stations several months ago, as a matter of fact. I mean, what say you?
Well, I'm going to give a response here which is not very flattering to the audience, which is that I actually hold you accountable. Well, you're the electorate. You consider yourself an educated individual, somebody who's responsible to participate in democratic governance. And now we are putting the people who have surrendered their souls to your protection, and this is the way you're treating them. And these people come from all over the world, and that's fine. That's fine. But you're going to treat the very people who are safeguarding your house as the worst people in the world. You're going to kick them out of your house. You're going to kick them out of your hotel room. You're going to kick them in the motel to let some stranger in who we have no idea who they are, and put them in there and make sure the very individual who ensured your safety and our safety and your children's safety, those are the ones who are going to suffer the most.
How old were you, Dan?
Because that's a good promise to make sure people continue to join the military in order to make sure your security is continued.
How old were you,
Not
Dan?
gonna happen.
How old were you when you enlisted?
17 years old. 2 days after my 17th birthday.
17 years old. Delayed entry program, is that right?
As a matter of fact, I was the only person in my high school who actually ever found a way to join the United States Army. I went to basic training between 11th and 12th grade, returned to 12th grade on reserves, and continued my senior year till the point of graduation, and then lateral move to regular Army afterwards.
These men and women, these boys and girls that are signing up to defend our nation, 17, 18 years old. I enlisted, I was 22. I was one of the oldest members in my basic training company. Mm-hmm. At 22, I was one of the oldest. So we have to look at this. These are our children. These are our children living at the train station.
Absolutely.
These are our children living in wooded lots, being discarded after their service. I often say the DOD, the Department of Defense, they ensure that each and every soldier, airman, Marine, sailor is fit for full duty upon entry into the armed forces. However, upon discharge, there is no SOP, standard operating procedures. There is no protocol to ensure that those same airmen, Marines, sailors, soldiers are fit for civilian life. Henceforth, the issues that we are dealing with today, everybody hates the warrior until the enemy is at the gate. Dan, the New York Post recently published an article stating that that homeless veterans were pushed or kicked out of hotels in New York, Orange County, to accommodate the sheltering of undocumented migrants. What say you?
Oh, well, I'm not surprised in the least bit. I mean, this is obviously the trajectory that we were going at. This doesn't surprise me in the least bit. I wasn't surprised when I heard this information. And by the way, next month's information is not going to be a surprise either. It's going to be even more outlandish. And, hence the continuation from that. But every individual needs to make sure that they understand that they are themselves inherently responsible for the product of the community. So, well, for instance, you might say, well, what are you doing? Well, what I'm doing is what I'm doing right now. I'm spending my time trying to address this subject. Oh, what are you doing? Well, I'm too busy with work. Well, we have work too. Oh, well, I got kids. Well, I have children too, and so does he. But you have to make an effort if you want to salvage what was that shining city on the hill. Because I can promise you, the way we're going now, no one's going to want to come in 50 years from now. Because it's going to be that bad here.
Now, an important message to put out is that Bravo Foxtrot United Veterans, we are nonpartisan. We do not swing left or right. We are dead center. We believe that we need to come together as a nation, as a people, in order to regain some assimilation of this idea that once was the United States of America. That being said, I want to address the issue of the separation that's going on in this country, the separation that's been going on for the last nearly 8 years, a clear divide. Dan, talk to me. I'm going to ask you a question now, or I'm going to ask rather of you to talk a little bit about the armed forces, enlisting in the armed forces, and what that means for the minority communities out there.
That's a good question, because many people don't know this, but you know, especially if you want to talk about African Americans, they only represent about maybe 11 to 13% of our community, but they represent about 40% of the Army. And the Army,
40%.
And the Army takes more casualties because it's the largest branch. It represents basically half the military service. Takes on more casualties than others. And when you stack up the amount of minorities that join the military because they're looking potentially because they want to involve themselves wholeheartedly into this country, and that they are the, you know, or many of them are Latinos and are themselves the children of immigrants, and they want to be able to really dig themselves deep into becoming Americans, assimilate, you know. That there's absolutely no doubt there's a high statistical proportion of minorities joining the military and suffering in them, but also with regards to how they readjust after they come out of the military. And if you want to talk about African American, you know, disenfranchisement, you could talk about how veterans themselves are being disenfranchised coming out of the military. And if you have a 300% statistical overrepresentation in the Army of Black Americans who are protecting you, and now they're coming out of the Army and they have a statistical likelihood of being in the lower classes, well, that shows to me, well, the intention is everything good, but to protect you. And what do they get in the end? A statistical likelihood that they're going to end up poor,
which is already dealt with by that community. And this, ladies and gentlemen, I have to say, is that in the military, I believe that veterans, the military, we lead the way in transcending racial.
Absolutely.
Any type of demographic you could possibly think of, religious, whatever. We transcend those boundaries, and we lead the way in doing that. And that is one thing that I stand behind. We're the military veterans. We're not perfect. Yes, we have our issues, but we lead the way when it comes to that. Now, Dan, what's up?
Well, there's clear historical evidence to what Matt said right now. 1954, the Brown versus the Board of Education. In the 1948-1949, the Army desegregated. It took the states 20 years afterwards, decades, to do what the Army did, what the military was leading upon. The same thing with regards to gender, with regards to dealing with homosexuality. You know what I mean? Like the military leads the way, and not just defending you, but supporting the principles that have made our great nation great and free. And now these very people are getting the worst of it. And why?
Ladies and gentlemen, anybody hearing this right now, I urge you to reach out to Bravo Foxtrot United Veterans. You can find us on www.bravofoxtrot.org. You can email us at info@bravofoxtrot.org. You can find us on YouTube, Bravo Foxtrot 1776, Instagram, Bravo Foxtrot 1776. You can find us on Facebook at BFU Vets. Find us, message us, like our page, follow us. This is a movement. It's not just an organization.
It's for you.
Dan, any last words before I close this out?
It's for you. You're talking to people who dedicated or willing to dedicate their lives for your survival and your protection. This is not just for our fallen comrades and other veterans. The veterans serve to protect you. So help us protect you.
Donate to Bravo Foxtrot. Donate to us. We are out here every day. You could donate through our website, bravofoxtrot.org. And I'm going to close it like this, like we close every single video that we make. God bless our troops, and God bless the principles, ladies and gentlemen, that made our great nation free. This is Matthew Simone and
Daniel Jackman.
And for now, we're out.
Well done.